I actually forgot there was a game tonight and played D&D after work. I made the better decision. Let's discuss this game.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I'm your host, Robin Leonio, alongside Matthew Jacobson. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper terms of use for details. We also want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. Matthew, the Arizona Coyotes lost once again their third game in a row. It's interesting. I'll get to the score in a little bit. But it's interesting that you have an insanely awesome 5-game winning streak sandwiched in between two really crappy 3-game losing streaks. This one was, and this most recent loss was a 5-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I walk in, third period's about to start, so I'll hop in the shower real quick so I can watch it. 4-1 heading into the third period. The Sabres have been struggling. Now, I know Tage Thompson's back. They're getting a little healthier. They did beat Boston, I think, last week. But they've been struggling throughout the season. And the Coyotes, again, not a playoff team, but they're staying in the wild card race if they want to keep taking steps forward. Once again, this is a team that they should be better than, and they should beat. And we're right back here talking about a pretty sizable loss, and now it's 3 in a row, so they have their first 3-game losing streak of the season, rip off 5 in a row, and then drop 3 consecutive again. And I'm not mad about the Boston one. We didn't get to talk about the last couple of games. The Boston game was a competitive game. Can't be mad at that. That's exactly the way I want them to play.
They looked great in that game. As good as you can against a Boston team that's one of the best in the league.
Yep, 100%. I'm not mad about the Boston game. A little upsetty spaghetti about the flatness against Philly, but they really needed to bounce back in this one, and they just didn't. Now, they fought towards the end. They took them too long to score a goal in the third period, though.
Yeah, no, it absolutely. One of the things that really, I knew we needed to get to this point, but also I kind of had to think about it too. Is the decision to start Karove Milka. Ingram needed a break. Let's get real. Ingram did need a break. However, when was the last time Veggie even got enough practice?
It's actually something I did want to bring up. So since you set me up, I want you to let me loose for a couple of minutes. I am questioning just a couple of things with Tournier. The last hurdle, I think there was a good response, and the team started playing better after those sluggish, 3 or 4 games. So far, when challenges come up, they seem to overcome. However, I'm still questioning the decision. Once that winning streak was over, and Ingram lost, the Coyotes lost the game against Philly. It's not all Ingram's fault or anything. That should have been when the next game Veggie starts, and then you get that statement. I think Craig Morgan reported it where, he hasn't got enough practice. And the only thing I could say to that, again, I like the coach. That is on you. That is a stupid series of decisions by you not keeping him in game shape, forcing Ingram to go out there one more game. And then now, obviously, they're doing the back-to-back, so they're probably going to split, do the 1A, 1B for the next 4 games, which is fine. I don't want them to go back to the 1A, 1B, 1-on, 1-off moving forward. But since Ingram won the start, 3-1, 4-1, whatever, it's just they did not do a good enough job keeping Veggie good to go. Veggie's already had some struggles. And while obviously he does need to play better, I want to acknowledge the difficulty in keeping yourself in game shape when all you're doing is practicing, especially when you guys are getting some days off because you're on a hot 5-game winning streak. To me, that's like hey, if the guy's got X day off, maybe Veggie should still come in and get some reps. because he wasn't playing. It would have benefited him. So that is one thing that I am going to criticize. I don't want to see any more of that. You got to keep your goalies in game shape.
100%. Although, and I will say this, I feel like we're not surprised though by by the point in which they decided to give it to Veggie. Like if we looked at if you guys take a look back to our discussion we had last week after they beat the Capitals, after they rounded out that 5-game winning streak, I asked you the question: how long do they keep Ingram in net until they finally give him a break? And I think even you said, like, when that back-to-back hits against the Sabres and the Penguins, probably going to give Veggie the first game because it's the Sabres. It's a game and you mentioned because it's the Sabres have been a struggling team, so at least give it a way to ease Veggie back in, and then Ingram gets the tougher matchup against the Penguins. That made sense, and at the time, but based on what we know now, it kind of really frustrates me to see that that's kind of what ended up going down and how that went down.
It's one of those things where honestly, part of me, obviously this is retrospect. This is not me saying like this is what Coach Bear should have done. Just I'm talking about like a retrospect speculation here. Kind of feel like he should have just started Veggie against Philly so that way you can have Ingram prepared for Boston, because I understand wanting your best goalie for Boston. That makes sense. I don't think he played poorly, but the team gave up too many goals in that game. So then when you come back against Buffalo, you got 2 back-to-backs coming up. You're going to have to split them up. But imagine if they play Veggie against Philly, then you just do the 1A, 1B for another week, and then you can go back to finding a rhythm, or you just start Veggie against Boston. Because honestly, you weren't going to win that game anyway. I know I'm being cynical, but like I'm just trying to be realistic here. They were never going to beat Boston. They haven't won a game in Boston since they were wearing these. I think it was 2009 was the last game they won in Boston. It's something ridiculous. You weren't going to win that game. I get you want your best foot forward. If you're going to throw Veggie to the Wolves, throw Veggie to the Wolves there. And then because the Penguins are also starting to skid a little bit, maybe just do Ingram then Veggie. Why not?
Just do something on it, right? I mean, it only makes sense for that way. But they're on a back-to-back. They got the Penguins later tonight, as when everyone's listening to this. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But take a look to me though, Matthew, what they have coming up. I really think the Penguins is really the only true tough matchup. I mean, I'm not going to say the rest are not tough, but you got the Sabres again, who you'd hope the Coyotes are able to bounce back, especially since that should be a home game. You also had the Sharks. I should forgot to mention that one. And on the first bit of a back-to-back, the Senators, the Sharks again, before 2 straight games with the Avalanche. So like that 4-game stretch, the Sharks, the Sabres, the Sens, and the Sharks, they really need to figure out. Okay, the Coyotes need to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, let's just put this slightly in perspective here. They've given up 14 goals in their last 3 games. That's not going to get it done. I know one was an empty net tonight, but that's not going to get it done. They have scored 6 goals. They're averaging 2 goals a game over this stretch, these last 3 games. Obviously, it's not just goaltending. It's not just that or anything like that. But they keep going through these slight, like off and on, and I get it. Young, inconsistent. It's the frustrating aspect. The highs are high, the lows are low. I get that. But as soon as you drop 3 in a row and you lose a game you should have won against Buffalo, they should have won this game. I can no longer say, oh, well, that should be a game you should win, because now you got to prove it again. Now you have to go right back to proving it that you should be winning these games. And, like I said, I'm trying to keep my expectations, reasonable. I'm just a little frustrated because like now they're kind of in this bind where you're going to have to do 1A, 1B for this stretch of 4 games and then hopefully not throw the rhythm out too much. So it's like, I really wish they would have just thrown Veggie to the Wolves against Boston. Like looking back on it, because obviously you got to ride the hot hand until it's no longer hot. And it wasn't like it was 12 games in a row. Like 6 games is fine. Might be stretching it a little bit. It's 6 games. I can deal with that. I don't think that's too much.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to continue this this discussion. What to look forward to, like, get some keys excuse me, for the Arizona Coyotes in the next few games next week. I know normally we do a key to the game. There is a game tonight against Pittsburgh. Like I said, tonight when everyone's listening to this, but instead of keys to that game specifically, we're going to look at keys to kind of turn around from this losing streak and kind of get back into the winning ways of things. We'll get to that though right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Clayton Keller can score 50 goals. The Arizona Coyotes can make the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And it goes beyond just hockey contests. You can go daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, college football on Sleeper, as well as talking in a group and team chat functionality so you can connect with other fans or even alongside your friends. Entries can be made in under a minute, and all you got to do is pick whether or not studs like I mentioned Clayton Keller earlier, or really, like to say, anyone else around the league, like Nathan McKinnon or anyone else. Anyone else record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, or more in a given game. To win 100 times bet, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Coyotes fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey or Sleeper. So start paying attention, nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See where terms are used for details and locational availability. All right, Matthew. Let's get into those kind of like take a look ahead at like keys to try to turn things around, get back in the winning ways of things. There were some things I guess you can kind of take as like momentum and anything like that from the previous couple games, things that looked good, things that some highlights, at least in the last couple games, even though they were losing, they were on a losing streak. But I want one person I want to bring up continue, and I want to see him continue to continue to look good. It's Michael Kesselring.
Oh, one of the goal scorers tonight. We forgot to do the patented goal scoring summary.
We did forget to do that.
Yeah, I can take care of that in like 30 seconds. So, first period, Kyle Okposo is fifth at 225, 1-0 Buffalo. Go to the second period where Michael Kesselring ties it up at 3:01 from Logan Cooley and Milos Kellerman, his first point of the season. Then Robinson answers back, making it 2-1 at 6:14. Peyton Krebs at 10:52 makes it 3-1. And then Paterka is 12th at 15:06. We go into the third period. The Coyotes are down 4-1. And Michael Carcone, off of a phenomenal play by Matias Maccelli, we'll talk about that in a minute. Technically a shorthanded goal because the Coyotes Buffalo penalty had expired. 12:47. Carcone is 14th. Maccelli and Moser, and then Dahlin hits the empty net with 1 minute and 5 seconds to go. 5-2 is your final.
Yeah, I still don't like that final score. It still stings against a team like Buffalo, like you mentioned. But Michael Kesselring is still looking good. He's like we talked about last week. He continues to be a pretty bright spot and is making a name for himself during his call-up stint. Yeah,
honestly, it's interesting how consistently good he's been. Once again, don't send him back down. Trade whomever else. Bench whomever else. Maybe a number 24. Bench anybody else but sending down Michael Kesselring.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like it's hard to. It really is hard to do it at this point. But that also brings me to another question regarding just the personnel. Outside of course, his performance, has the injuries around the rest of the team caught up to them? As a question to you.
That was brought up on the broadcast in the third period. It's a valid question to ask. It really is. However, we're asking it, in my opinion, in a certain aspect of the game, too late, because Dermott, Valimaki, I think one of the defensemen, unless my brain is mush, all back. So the defense is kind of back to where it should be. I don't like how they're still running the 11-7 because it's stupid. You have Logan Cooley out there centering Milos Kelemen and Liam O'Brien. I think that's terrible for that kid's development, and I don't like that at all. Just do the traditional 12-6. Anyway, forget me. I'm just getting flustered on that stupid decision they keep
Honestly,
making.
to me, yeah, like, defense, yeah, sure, the personnel for defense should be fine. It's the questions are on offense, and the missing of Barrett Hayton,
The
for
entire
example.
center depth, you mean? Your number
The
one
entire
center and
center
all of your
depth.
center depth?
Yes. No, I mean, it also brings me to, like, who was freaking on Cooley's line? That I think a lot of people were questioning about that when I saw it all over X. Like, why is Cooley on this line? It makes no sense.
Yeah, it was the O'Brien Kellerman line. He's out there centering the fourth line, and they were kind of rotating him around a little bit, which gives him extra shifts, which I kind of think is probably going to throw off his rhythm and also make him a little more exhausted throughout the game. I just didn't. I don't like this because all it does is overwork certain players and also confuse defensive pairings. Like, I know you want to shelter certain guys. I know they won a few games with this 11-7 that did it last year. I genuinely believe the 11-7 has a very short shelf life, and it's like you'll get a couple wins, but if you keep abusing it, all the problems start to reveal themselves.
Yeah,
That's just how I feel about it, though.
No, I don't know, and I feel like that's a really valid thought. But I guess we'll have to find out. Maybe that was an experiment, that definitely didn't seem to work, in my opinion. But who knows? I think there will be a lot of shifting around still because of the lack of center depth right now, because of all those injuries.
But so Nick Schmaltz has been back at center, obviously, because first line center Travis Boyd is injured. So it's Keller, Schmaltz, Zucker, which looks okay. Matthias Bukestad, Krause, after, like I said, the first handful of games, just so I don't pretend I never criticized the first handful of games, they are phenomenal at this point, right back to where they were. But then the last two lines are Carcone, Kerfoot, and that's it for the third line, technically. And the fourth line is Kellerman, Cooley, O'Brien. And I saw multiple times in the third period where Cooley was also centering Carcone and Kerfoot. And I don't mind him centering Carcone and Kerfoot, or even getting an extra shift here or there on the wing, with Kerfoot being the center there. The problem is, on at least one occasion, I saw him out there for a back-to-back shift, and I think that's kind of really stupid. Now, that could have just been a one-time thing, and it just stuck out to me. I acknowledge that. I think that's still kind of dumb.
No, absolutely. Especially, like, those that actually know the game of hockey know that if you have to take a back-to-back shift, that really is a lot on that endurance, because, like, one shift alone is tiring. Yeah, like, people's like, oh, it's only a minute. You're going real hard out there for a minute to 90 seconds. Like, that is incredibly difficult. So yeah, I'm with you, Matthew. Let's get rid of the 11-7, please.
Just call up Dylan Guenther.
Do
just
it.
legitimately. Like, I know Tucson like needs the scoring right now, but honestly, the Coyotes are still in a playoff spot technically. I actually let me fact check that while I'm talking out my butt, because they're on a 3-game losing streak. But they're still technically within a playoff race. Still don't think they're going to be a playoff team at the end of the year. Still in the second wild card spot, 1 point ahead of St. Louis, 2 behind Nashville. Just that there's your live update. But it's like, the only time I ever don't want them to call people up is whenever they're out of the playoffs and Tucson is in a playoff push. Because then I'm like, look, let Tucson make a playoff push. Call up a guy. If they're not going to play, just call up a random guy and scratch him. Don't call up an actual good player. Right now, the Coyotes are still playing well. You got Donor, who has 10 goals so far. He's leading the team in goals. You got Guenther, who's playing phenomenal, leading the team in points. You even got Nate Smith. If you don't want to feel like you're rushing Doan and you don't want to get Gunther's hopes up falsely or whatever, you can call up Nate Smith just for a few games, because we're still, I think, at least a week out from anyone returning. I know Barrett Hayton, I think we're still at 4 weeks away. Like, it's only been a couple weeks. We're still around a month away from him.
Yeah, we're still a bit of ways. So you kind of have to figure out exactly how you're going to do that. How exactly are you going to be able to get those, get those opportunities for those players? and fix that center depth, and just fix that. Just I guess just in general, fix these forward lines. I really feel like getting like to me at this point, I am on that train of call up Dylan Guenther because of what he was drafted to be, a true goal scorer.
Like Zucker, I don't hate him on that first line. I like him a lot with Cooley. I like him playing with Kerfoot. I like him playing with Carcone. It's a couple really good combinations.
Those three together, yeah, Zucker, Cooley, and Kerfoot. That line,
or
great.
even with Carcone, like it's all good stuff. If you call up Dylan Guenther, put him on the first line. I'm only asking for like a week. I'm only asking for just until a center comes back. If Schmaltz is already going to be at center,
or even then, call him up for a week and then send him down and then bring Donut up for a little bit, and then like
you could do that. You could do Smith. Do something like
just do something, yeah, because
Guenther could get great experience here.
That's one of the keys here is you have to do something to spark the life back into this team after having lost 3 straight.
Yeah, and I've
been having lost 3 straight and dealing with all the injuries. Because look, this team had all the injuries when they went on their 5-game winning streak.
And they still found a way to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were just barely getting healthy defensively. Like if the problem is offense in this little stretch, that kind of tells me, hey, maybe we should have offensive players playing, because Schmaltz and Keller, as good as they are, cannot carry the entire offense every single night. Like, I genuinely feel like Keller is an elite talent, and I think that Nick Schmaltz is a legitimate first-line talent. I do not think they are good enough to carry the offense every single night. We don't have that guy on the team. We have a lot of really good guys. I don't think we have that one guy.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet.
Yeah, like, we have a couple players on the team who has the potential to be that player 2-3 years down the road, but not there yet. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to continue talking about this. There's still a couple other things that I want to talk about of what the Coyotes need to do to kind of turn this around and kind of spark some life back into this team. Once again, after losing 3 straight, most recently with a 5-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres. We'll get to that, though, right after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because at eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit available only for U.S. customers.
All right, Matthew, let's continue this episode and kind of get through this final segment, getting through a couple things the Coyotes need to do to turn things around, as well as predict what's going to be the outcome of tonight's game against Pittsburgh. In terms of the turnaround bit here, Matthew, that one of the things I am going to turn to, again, as I mentioned, there's a 4-game stretch of teams that you quote should win. That Sabres one, again, as you talked about, is like, okay, that's now become a toss-up because they had to prove themselves again. The best thing that they can do at this point in this 4-game stretch, and those that, of course, have known me ever since I was a kid know that this is going to hurt me to say this, but the Arizona Coyotes need to curb stomp the Sharks both times.
They also need to start with Pittsburgh because they just lost to Buffalo, who's sub 500. The Coyotes are still technically above 500. You need to maintain that. And Pittsburgh's lost their last 2. They're 3-4-3 in their last 10. Below mediocre. The Coyotes are 5-5-0. It's exactly mediocre. They've lost 3 in a row. The power play numbers, it's night and day. Coyotes are 9th overall in the league. Pittsburgh is 30th. Coyotes special teams has been getting better. It's 14th overall in penalty kill at least, and then penalty kill for Pittsburgh is 10th overall. Goals for per game. The Coyotes are scoring 3.19. It's right around the middle of the league. Pittsburgh 2.88. Coyotes are giving up 3.04 because they've been giving over the stretch. It's gone up. And Pittsburgh's been giving up 2.62. Right there, you need to be able to convert on your power plays because they have a solid penalty kill. So you need to bring your A game. You also need to limit their opportunities in special teams. We talk about special teams every single time, but also they're not scoring that often. The Coyotes need to tighten up that defense and make sure they don't score very often. I know, simple stuff. What is it? Get pucks deep, get pucks in the net, and win hockey games.
Absolutely. I think you made a good point of bringing that one up too. And I think if you look at it all in all, I do really feel like in the next 5 games, because I mentioned just 4 games after the Pittsburgh one, and you're right, you had to talk about the Pittsburgh one as well. In the 5 games, in these next 5 games, I think the Coyotes should get at least 7 standings points.
I hope. However, whenever you drop 3 in a row and your offense is anemic, relatively speaking, whenever you're looking flat out there.
Because you're right, absolutely. Because the way I'm looking at it, though, is that just sure the Penguins can still be somewhat of a toss-up. Let's draw it up as like maybe they get at least the very least 1 point out of it, get it to OT if they can. Which is again, they haven't got it.
Beat Pittsburgh. Show what a team you can be. Just kick them in the teeth.
No, exactly. And as I mentioned with the Sharks, those should be no question wins, no brainer wins. Both of them, because they play against twice in the next in the next week and a half.
But Robin, next 2 weeks. Remember, the Sharks have been coming together a little more. Like they're in but they've been coming. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're playing better right now. They can't take them lightly.
They've been playing a lot better at the hands of William Eklund, who's injured right now. I don't know how long he's going to be out. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's back by the time the Coyotes play the Sharks, but the Coyotes. It's still. To me, I just feel like the Coyotes are far and away a better team than the Sharks. They should be, at least.
They should be. It starts with Pittsburgh. Wake back up against Pittsburgh, because like when I was watching the third period, and I know there's only the 1 goal scored by Buffalo, the Coyotes defense is playing fine. Vejmelka stopped all 10 shots he faced or 9 shots he faced, in that period. He had just below a 900 save percentage. It wasn't a terrible game by him. It was just kind of okay, a little below mediocre type thing for him. Like, the defense wasn't terrible. The offense generated a couple of opportunities. It just took them too long to do so. So, like, go out there, motivated, curb stomp a team you should beat and prove that, we got cold for a couple of games. It happens. Shake it off. That's how you learn to win in this league. That's how my stupid criticisms turn into shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
All right. I want to get into a specific game prediction against the Penguins. Before I do that, though, I do want to ask you, and as I said, this next 5 game stretch is crucial. Give me your game by game prediction for the next 5 games.
Game by game. Let me pull up this Arizona Coyote schedule. I had it earlier. We were talking.
I mean, I have it right now. I will have it on the calendar right now. So tonight versus the Penguins.
Okay. They need to win this one. They just got kicked in the teeth a little bit tonight in Buffalo. I say they pull off a 4-2 victory.
4-2 victory. All right. Friday against the Sharks.
That needs to be a blowout, so it's going to be a 5-4. They're barely going to win. It's going to go to overtime.
Saturday against the Sabres.
That better be an 8-1 whooping. They just got kicked in the teeth in Buffalo. They better bounce back. So 3-2, they win in overtime.
Tuesday against the Senators. Next Tuesday against the Senators.
They're going to lose that one like 4-1. Jacob Chikrin's going to score a couple of goals.
And then next Thursday against the Sharks.
Well, after getting beat 4-1 at home, you got to go to San Jose and smack them around. Let's say they can get a 5-1 victory there. After you get smacked down a little bit.
All right. So how many wins is that for the team? Did you chalk up?
So I said they beat Pittsburgh.
Penguins.
They overtime beat the Sharks. overtime beat Buffalo, and they beat the Sharks again, so they can win 4 out of the next 5. So realistically, they'll get 2.
So what are you talking about? So in terms of like a standings point prediction on that, that is
2, 4, 6.
8
Yeah, 8 points.
Yeah.
Wow.
8 standing points. There you go. 8 standing points to the prediction. I want to key in specifically on your prediction towards the Coyotes win over the Penguins, because I just want to kind of tie in the odds from FanDuel to kind of give us everyone a perspective where it's at. The Coyotes are still underdogs in this game by 1.5 at plus 155, and it's at over/under is at total points is 6.5.
What did I say? It's gonna be a 4-2 victory.
Yes.
So under.
Under. And And are you confident enough to go money line, or do you're just going to take the points on the spread?
I'll take the Coyotes win. I'll take under 6.5 points, and I will take Michael Kesselring anytime point score.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything else, any other bet I can make on this one in terms of like first goal scorer.
Erik Karlsson off of a tip. First period around the 10-minute mark. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall. If this actually happens, I'm gonna play the lottery. It's not gonna be a power play though. It's just gonna be like a sustained pressure halfway in the period.
Okay, that sounds like an interesting one. All right, what? Sure. Any final thoughts before we close things off?
Either Travis Boyd or Zachary McBain need to come back soon, and they need to go back to a traditional lineup. That's it. Because Hayton's going to be gone for like another month. Like, we know that.
On that thought, though, that's going to be it for today's episode, the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, on SiriusXM, and ad-free on Amazon Music. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on X at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robin_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.